welcome to the Cartoonist Consultant Podcast. I'm your host, Zoe Zuzu Cartoon Sug, and finally, after a good long while, we are about to head into our Instagram deep dive. I know I've been promising this for, I guess, about a month now. I first started talking about it when I was at DINK Denver, but I looked at my followers list and I realized I was at maybe 480 something. So I've been keeping an eye on my followers list because I want to see if I can hit 500 before we start this whole little research project. So here we are, 506 followers currently, so I think we're ready to get started. Real quick, because it's been a while since I've spoken with you guys, I want to do just a tiny little recap of both DINK Denver and Tucson Zine Fest. I've been to both of those since I last posted. DINK Denver was absolutely wonderful. I have been to that show before as an attendee, but this was my first year boothing. I leaned pretty hard into all of my Dungeons & Dragons art and fan art and zines and all that good stuff, in part because I saw a lot of people last year had Dungeons & Dragons stuff, but also because Travis, who is from the Adventure Zone, was going to be there. So I did pretty well. I got to swap a lot of really cool role-playing stories with people, met a couple of really neat people. So it was a great show, absolutely loved it. Quick shout out to Pop Whiz Bang. That is another Cartoonist podcast, actually. I met these two very neat people who do more of a deep dive on comic book technique and comic book reviews. So I listened to their DINK episode. It was really cool. I'm kind of working my way through their backlog at the moment. They have several episodes out right now. And it's just really cool. You know, I'm doing all the branding stuff over here, but they're doing a lot of the technique stuff, so definitely go check them out. Tucson Zine Fest was also really cool. Apparently it was actually their first one this year, so I got to attend. That was really neat. Met a bunch of really cool locals down that way, and some people I actually reconnected with after meeting them in Denver earlier. Sometimes you gotta leave town in order to actually see people. It's weird that way. But yeah, shout out to Logan and 10 Times a Tiger. They're both really cool. They have some really cool pieces, and hopefully if you are an Arizona local, you can get down there and check them out. Alright, now, back to Instagram. We're going to split this little study up into a couple of parts. This podcast is just going to be sort of what I already know from my experience on Instagram. So we're kind of just aggregating all the stuff that I know for sure already, and then we're going to be comparing that with some stuff that I research and put into actual practice. And we may even kind of expand beyond 2 or 3 parts. We'll just kind of see how long this takes and how much stuff I uncover. You know, you always want to have a control group, which is part of why I'm sitting here recapping what I currently know, so that we have sort of a baseline. But if I end up coming up with, 5 or 6 things that I want to experiment with, we might just go down the line and do them one after another. Depending on how long that takes, I might break up the episodes with other more interesting topics kind of along the way. We will just really kind of be playing this by ear. You know, Instagram is my best social media. I do the best on it. I meet a bunch of really cool people over there. So I really like it just as a social tool, but my Facebook and Twitter and probably every other social media presence, they all need work. So if Instagram here is successful and if you guys like it, we might end up doing more of a deep dive on Twitter as well. That's kind of the advanced level because I hate Twitter. I think most people I talk to hate Twitter, but you meet so many cool people on there and it's really good to stay connected. And I have under 200 followers right now. My Twitter's real sad. So yeah, we're just gonna go through Instagram first and kind of see how that goes. All right, so the first thing that I know about Instagram is that my selfies do so much better than any of my other posts. Now, I actually used to be fairly upset by this fact, right? The privilege of being pretty isn't really something that's socially acceptable to complain about, but, it's really damaging to my self-worth as an artist when my selfies routinely get way more likes and reach than my comic art. My art consistently gets about 30 likes, high 20s to mid 40s. My selfies get literally 200% more. I'm talking about, I can expect a reach of 60 to 70 people. And recently it's been even higher. The highest one at DINK was at 92 likes the last time I checked. So, it's just disheartening when you work, 8 hours on something and you post it and it represents your soul and then you post a picture of your face and it gets, way more engagement. So I always used to really hate that my audience seemed to like me and like my art separately. I tended to sort of believe that my audience liked the fact that I was a hot chick more than the fact that I did any kind of artwork. Um, and there's probably some personal baggage that goes along with that, you know. We will probably end up diving into that at a later date if it ends up being useful. But just we'll leave it at that. That is how I have felt about selfies for a really long time. So then I was at Dink, and I met Christine Skelly, and Skelly and we were just kind of talking all weekend. She's really cool. I like her stuff a lot, and she actually told me that sometimes she will boost her numbers by posting selfies. I think her actual terminology was she would do it to beat the algorithm. And I just got this epiphany like, oh crap, is it not just me? Is it not like a personal problem? And sure enough, I asked a few other creators about this thing, and without even blinking, Carissa from Wasted Ink said, "Oh yeah, a post gets way more likes if there's a face in it." And they had a pretty fun suggestion. I think they said, "Hold my book up to my face and just get a twofer in there and see how well that does." Honestly, I might just give that a shot and let you guys know the results. But yeah, it was really interesting just knowing that the way the algorithm is set up, it's going to give you more reach if you have your face on there. Now, of course, my immediate next thought is, well, how smart is that algorithm, right? Like if I post a like a cartoon selfie or like a semi-cartoon selfie, is it going to detect anything? I will tell you, I've kind of looked on other people's profiles, and that does not seem to be the case. I think Instagram has some pretty good like facial mapping, but you know, it was worth a shot. One of the things that I'm definitely interested in is, okay, so if this is how the algorithm works, and if this is the game that I have to play, how can I manipulate that and use it to, you know, expose more of my artwork rather than, you know, just me? So honestly, other than Carissa's suggestion, I don't really know that I have anything like popping to mind, but that is something that I do plan on working on. Because, you know, if you can't beat the algorithm, join the algorithm, I guess. The next thing that I want to talk about is following hashtags and trends. Okay, so I know a lot of artists, right? We're artists. We don't really want to play a game. And I do understand that. I understand how your artistic integrity is, let me think, less valued when you're trying to do the same thing that other people are doing. I get it, okay? It is a game, and you do sort of have to play. You know, the same way that the algorithms maps faces, it does also map hashtags and trending posts and things like that. So I've seen a lot of people actually use these hashtags as sort of like a drawing warm up. You know, when you kind of you sit down and you don't have like you have like a little bit of artwork, you just have some leftover mood from the day kind of hanging over you. I've seen a lot of people post doodles to just kind of get a warm up out of the way, get their brains moving, you know, that kind of a thing. I think if you are more talented than myself and you can bang out like a good looking sketch, I think that's a great way to get over that. Because, you know, you don't want to spend all of your time doing just like a trendy thing, but it's really, really helpful when you're trying to reach new audience members. I definitely just personally really enjoy hashtags. Well, let me back up. I really enjoy hashtag games. So every February, Dungeon Drawing Dudes comes out, and it's a Dungeons and Dragons prompt list. So I get to meet other D&D fans. I get to play with different monster types or settings that I may have not previously. It's a fun little challenge, and it's really open just because it's like, it'll have stuff like gnomish goggles or bard warrior or something like that. It's not like Kingdom Hearts fan art where it's like, this is Sora and this is what he looks like. Okay, moving on. You know, I really have found some good hashtags that actually let me be creative still. So Dungeon Drawing Dudes is probably one of my favorite. Draw This in Your Style challenges, those are really fun, and I'm really, really happy that we're still seeing those around. You know, I liked it when they came out that you could experiment with your style with someone else's character because you get their fans looking at you get hopefully them looking at you. A lot of times when an artist really likes what you've done with their piece, they'll sit there and they'll repost it, and that's really cool. So in general, I like style challenges for a number of reasons. Of course, Inktober is really fun. You know, I think most artists at this point do Inktober. I've seen zines come out. that'll just be labeled, Inktober 2018 or something, that's just a reprint of all these different doodles that an artist has done over that time period. And it's also just a really fun way of making myself doodle something daily, especially if I'm on a long project. I'll go 3 or 4 days without posting. I actually just posted my thanks for 500 followers doodle, and I had my character from Morning Routine on there. But as of right now, no one knows what Morning Routine is, right? It's a 6-page mini that's going to go in Hellcat Press's comic, but my followers don't know that yet. And quite frankly, that's probably an issue, right? But it's true, when you get caught up in a big project and this is, your side job and you're doing a couple other things, very easy to get lost in the sauce. So I really like the way that doodle challenges will, keep me aware of my, just aware of the fact that my Instagram exists and aware of the fact that I should be posting daily. I think you can make hashtag challenges and drawing challenges, you can make those work with your style of art and your motivation. So I don't think necessarily that you have to regard those things as being uncreative. I think that you can incorporate them into your style and you'll get more followers, you'll make more friends. I think it's a win-win-win. All right, and then the last thing that I really want to talk about is just social media and linking and tagging people in general is just super helpful. This advice isn't going to be really different from, say Twitter or something, but just the more accounts you can tag in a post, the more it will show up, because it'll show up on your followers' feed, it'll show up on their followers' feed, etc. It'll bring attention to your post if you're tagging somebody who's bigger than you, who maybe doesn't know you. If you do fan art of one of their pieces, then they'll see it. So yeah, just in general, it's really good to incorporate other users into your posts as much as possible. So that's just kind of a quick little blurb there. I don't know that I'm really going to be improving on that anymore. I try to do it as often as possible. And then the other thing that's going to provide a big advantage as I am experimenting here is the fact that I do have an Instagram business account. It didn't cost me anything to set up, but it does give me tangible analytical results when I post something. It gives me, here's the number of people that have seen this, here's the number of new people that saw it, here's how many people saw this post and then went to your profile. It's got really good information on there, and definitely as we start experimenting, I'm going to be tracking that and kind of trying to post, okay, I posted this, it did really well, it got this much reach, how does that compare to my past posts, things like that. And then I think another thing, and I'm probably going to be just a big old hypocrite here, this is not particularly even new if you are someone who works in webcomics quite a bit. Get a buffer. I can't say that enough, I can't say it loudly enough, and I'm sure you've already heard it, right? As artists, we get done with something and we're so excited that we want to post it immediately, but then after maybe like 6 or 7 posts, now it becomes work, it's become a project, we get behind or we get distracted and something takes a little while before we post, the 8th or 9th thing. It's just, that's life. And I don't think it's realistic to try and not act that way, right? We're artists, we get distracted, life gets in the way. Those are facts. So it's really useful to sit down, when you're really excited about a new project or a new character and you're drawing like 30, 40 iterations of whatever this thing is, wait. Wait to post it, and do not post it all at once. Post, 3 things immediately, and then the next day post the next 3, etc. Because this way you're working, let's say we have a batch of, and I'm just going to go with comics here. Let's say we have 30 panels of something that we've drawn. And instead of releasing it, all at once over 3 days with like 10 panels in each post, do 3 at a time. And now you have 10 days. You're working essentially at 10 days ahead of schedule. So that way on the, 12th or 13th day, that's when you have to worry about having new content. So you have 10 days to procrastinate or get buried in other work from your day job, or just have a mental health day where you don't do anything. You have that time. We will probably talk even more about buffers, as we get further on into other projects, but I can tell you it's super important to have. Now, the flip side of that is remembering to post your goddamn buffer. Most of you know that I have pitched to Rick and Morty. I've done an 8-page fantasy RPG zine with the Rick and Morty characters. I think about 3 of those panels have actually made it to my freaking social media. I have 8 pages done. They're done. I've just been super, super bad about remembering to post them. I don't quite have an answer for you, right? Because I am bad at this myself. One of the things that does work well for me sometimes is setting an alarm. So, like, for instance, Wednesdays at 6 p.m., I tend to get a lot of traffic. So if I have something that's really important that I want a lot of people to see, I will actually set an alarm on my phone and have it, buzz me when 6 p.m. on Wednesday comes by. I also know, being diabetic, I've had lots of other daily or weekly alarms set up over the course of my life, and I know that I'll get numb to it after, a certain, I'm not entirely sure what length of time exactly, but I know after a certain amount of time, I'll stop paying attention to it and I'll just start dismissing the alarm without doing anything. So I reserve those posts for really important things. Now, the flip side of it means that I should be posting at noon or 6 every day, and I don't. I don't remember to. Life just gets in the way. So, you know what? When you find a solution for you, let me know, comment below and let everybody else know. I would love to be better at this. I would love to set a goal to help myself remember to be better about it. And we will see how well that gets incorporated into this Instagram experiment, right? Because this is not a specifically Instagram problem, right? This is a me problem. But I will see if I can modify it, and I will share with you guys the results. Like I said, it's, probably one of my weakest areas is that I'm just, I get real distracted real easily, and I have piles of things that no one has seen yet. Alright, so to recap, let's just kind of go through some of the things that I plan on researching and or experimenting with over the next, we'll say couple of months. The algorithm's effect on selfies, and how selfies and other algorithm bonuses can be used to promote my artwork. The frequencies of my posts, participating more in hashtag games and challenges, tagging more people and places, and just keeping better tabs on my business account, using it to set goals and monitor how well I'm making progress on those goals. Alright, so I have a good list now of things that I want to study and share with you guys. Please, if you are also paying attention to this, if you want to experiment on your Instagram and share your results with me, I would love to hear them. The bigger sample size we have, the better idea we're going to have of what works across the board for all cartoonists. I'm very cute. I have a very certain aesthetic in my artwork. Everything is very round and adorable. So I'm probably going to appeal to a very different artist than somebody who's doing, all horror comics. So yeah, that's where that sample size can come in really, really handy. Let's all work together and share the love. All right, well, yeah, I think we have a pretty healthy looking to-do list here. I'm super excited to get started on this, and thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, share the love and knowledge when it comes to you. And I'm just really excited to, share what I find with you guys and get your feedback and find out what works well for you. This is going to be really cool. All right, this has been the Cartoonist Consultant Podcast, and thank you for listening.